Oh,
Hi.
hi, we're live. Welcome
Yeah.
to the May edition of Manic and Chill. So we decided we're going to be doing this daily now, right?
Yeah, I think not daily. Come on. That's way too aggressive. Probably weekly
But if we
without a lot of planning. Let's see. It's 9:02 p.m. Eastern. And what time did we start planning this show?
uh, in,
8:52?
in my head, I started planning it hours ago. Hours ago.
Yeah. How's your rookie drafts coming? Other than there
Uh,
being a lot of them at once.
I'm liking it. I'm happy. I'm winning all of them, as usual. So that always feels good, right? Because until the season starts, because right now Sky Moore's going to hit, Garrett Wilson's going to hit, Traylon Burks is going to hit, James Cook isn't going to bust on me. Guys I'm getting in the second, Jahan Dotson obviously is going to be a hit. Guys that I'm snagging in the later rounds like Damian Pierce, definitely going to smash, of course. Um, yeah, Brees Hall. Oh wait, I've only gotten Brees Hall in a couple leagues. Actually, got him at 102 in a league.
Yeah.
Um,
He's
yeah,
hard to get unless you have the
and
101.
then I got Kenneth Walker at 105 in the same league, and then somehow Garrett Wilson at 108 in that league.
That's probably the best draft haul other than ones that happened prior to the
Uh, uh,
NFL draft. That's pretty good.
And then I looked up and I realized I had 37 Jets on my team, so that's a problem.
Yeah, we're doing a draft. We're just finishing up the run and gun, and I posted in the chat that I finally hit double figures on like Jerome Ford and Ty
Uh,
Chandler and Tyler Beatty. So I'm just like, I'm just gonna pick someone different. I didn't have any Khalil Shakir, so I took a Khalil Shakir. But I'm like, really? I mean, I don't mind. I don't actually mind taking. This is one of the rants I had. I don't actually mind taking like tons and tons of shares of like a running back because if it's like a fifth or sixth round running back, you're gonna probably know pretty soon like what their standing's gonna be. Like one of those guys, if they don't make the roster out of camp and they get cut and they sign to someone else's practice squad, like that's somebody you can probably let go in your dynasty league because there's like 25 of those guys that are just on taxis and then you really don't activate them or you don't actually go pick them back up until they get elevated. You know what I mean? Because there's an injury. So I think those are guys that I'm kind of like fine going all in on, but they just seem to constantly be there, like in the mid to late fourth when I have a bunch of these picks, and I'd rather take a shot on those guys than Jerome Ford or Ty Chandler. I have them in 10 leagues, and they're probably fighting with Dearness Johnson, Kareem Hunt, and Alexander Madison, Keenan Nwangwu just for like a roster spot. But there's a
well, here,
chance that both come out ahead, and they're on the active roster day one, and so I like to have running backs on those offenses. They seem like good pieces.
hey, most of these running backs have made it through rookie camp already, right? Which is more than we can say for say like Master Teague, already waived by the Bears. So I would say that's probably his outlook is not good, not good. Yeah, but anyone that doesn't make it out of camp, probably you can get it. Just you can terminate their contract off your roster. Look, it was just a couple years ago when we were looking at Lynn Bowden Jr. We were looking at a PPR machine, and we knew quickly, oh, that's not going to happen. So yeah, I'm fine with that too.
Well, it's
Rather taking
interesting because like you mentioned Master Teague, like he's somebody that I picked up, and then he's just somebody that I'll cut already. I'll pick up another guy. You know what I mean? Like he's somebody that I'm not. Some people will go, oh, I even saw one of the threads talking about him getting cut was like, oh, well, he'll land somewhere else that's better than the Bears. And it's like, well, okay, he was undrafted, and then he got cut within 10 days of being signed, and he can go to somebody else. He can go anywhere else. That's enough for me to say I'll give somebody else that roster spot on my dynasty team until something says otherwise. You know what I mean? And it must be a physical thing with him or a mental thing with him. I don't know what it is, but literally, like to get cut this soon to where like the
yeah,
teams still are allowed to carry 90 plus players.
yeah.
I mean, that's not a good look.
No.
Not a good look.
You need to be very, 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 very bad for them to move on from you this soon. But no, and you know what? And we're going to hear that take a lot from people. Oh, well, he'll land with a better roster or he'll land in a better situation. Like, dude, if rookies are undrafted or if they're drafted in the fourth round or later and they're cut, I mean, honestly, it's not going to be anyone in the third round prior to that. If they're cut, just forget about them. Anyone's drafted in the fourth round later and they get cut, just forget about them. Like, you
Well,
could go through.
that goes into one of my rants that I wanted to ask you about, because it's something I get into these debates on Twitter and I just go back and forth and back and forth, and of course that character limit gets in the way and I just have to stop, otherwise I thread together like 7 different tweets, and I'm sure the people I'm trying to make the point to don't even see all the tweets, so it doesn't make sense. But before we get into that, we're not going live on the DLF channel. There was a previously scheduled programming, which is a little more planned and you know, on the schedule before Manic and Chill. So we're just going live on my Twitter, but check out DLF Football on Twitter, the YouTube channel as well. Shane at Shane is the worst, myself, Charles Chill, FFB, all the DLF stuff. But and shout out, didn't we want to give a shout out to Dynasty Trades in 5 for giving us the night off?
Yeah, thank you to Clay for letting us take a night off during the week. It's very rare we get a night off. And, you know, we figured, hey, if we're going to have a night off from Dynasty Trades in 5, we might as well do a Manic and Chill, right?
Yeah, quick Manic and Chill. Probably go about a half hour. But I wanted to ask you this question. So have you drafted any Justin Ross?
No.
Be honest. Okay. No Justin Ross. Okay. No. Have you been in the 4th of a draft and considered taking him, or in the 3rd even? Have you seen him on the ADP and you're like, I'm going to take a shot?
Nope. No, I've literally never even looked for his name, and if I saw it, my brain like just allowed me to completely pass it. As much as I love wide receivers that haven't done anything in 3 years, that probably shouldn't be on the football field, that go undrafted, that just got diagnosed with some other rare bone disease, I'm going to pass on Justin Ross this go around.
Well, and so here's the argument. I put out a bunch of Justin Ross tweets like, don't draft Justin Ross. Just play the numbers. You know, he's an undrafted receiver that we don't even know how many teams even wanted him, right? Yeah, he ended up signing with the team, but how many teams actually didn't even want him? So it's not like all 32 teams were after him after the draft and the Chiefs just happened to get lucky and gave him the most money, or they were the one team that came out ahead. Like, it's probably more like 3/4 of the teams didn't even want him. Doesn't even matter the price. Like, they just didn't want him. So here's the thing, though. If you draft Justin Ross, let's say you use the 412, because people's arguments have been, anybody I'm taking in the 4th is a wasted pick. So I might as well take a pick with a guy that has massive upside, right? But here's the thing, like, if you drafted Justin Ross, and I know you didn't, I wish you would have said I drafted a bunch of Justin Ross in the 4th round, because I would have asked you, Shane, how long would you hold on to him? So that's the thing. He's the kind of guy that you're going to look at it like, well, if he makes a play in preseason or just makes the roster, you think you've won, right? But then if he doesn't do anything as a rookie, you're going to kind of excuse away the fact that, well, he really hasn't played a lot of football in the last 3 years, and he had that broken foot, so maybe he's still getting back up to speed, right? He can still be that guy that smashed in, 2018, right? Yeah, that's a long time ago. So here's the thing, like, you're going to waste a whole year of roster spots. Now, even if people say, oh, I have a taxi squad, okay, that's still another player you could have put on that taxi squad. And I get it, if you can't rotate guys in and out of the taxi, it's not like a true roster spot. But I just see, here's what I think is going to happen. People are going to hold him for a whole year, excuse away the fact that he did nothing because he was so hurt last year, and he's coming off a serious foot injury. Forget about the neck stuff. Like, he's coming off a foot surgery, and he hasn't played football for a while. So you already can see the excuses building. Well, you know, as long as he makes the team, you know, or as long as they say good things about him, like, I'm still in. So then you go into 2023 and it's like, okay, let's say he spent an entire year on the practice squad. And then he makes the active roster and he's the wide receiver 5. Like, what's the expectation? I guess that would be my question, is in leagues where you can't store him on a taxi, that's a little different because you don't really cost yourself a roster spot. But let's just say, what would you say the average time is a truther would hold on to Justin Ross? Maybe like give him a full year and then into the next year. And if he's not doing anything by like preseason or early season 2023, then you maybe cut him. You're muted.
No, I'm not. Yeah, truther probably would give him that much time, because if you're willing to give a player that many excuses, look, we see it on the high level, right? We see it for players that were drafted in the 2nd round. Meanwhile, me and you are like wide receivers. They didn't hit in the 2nd round in their first year. I'm out immediately. Like, you shouldn't even wait till the next off season. But yeah, I could see people holding on to Justin Ross for a full year and coming up with reasons as to why he's going to make an impact in his second or even his third year. Maybe it'll be his third year. Maybe he'll just be on the what do they have? The NFL has the practice teams, right? Practice squad.
They have taxi squads, yeah.
Taxi
So
squad. There you go.
I think this speaks to not just Justin Ross. I think he's just more one of the most polarizing examples. This speaks to really any of these like day 3 or really late round receivers. Like I just took Khalil Shakir. So here's the thing: I have a taxi squad in that league, but at what time do I decide that he's not going to be somebody that really is anything but a roster clogger? And I think the tricky thing is there's people that have done some research about receivers that are drafted in this range. The team doesn't draft them to start. So if they're good enough to even crack like the game day active roster, they're actually probably better than what their draft pedigree says, but they're not immediate. Like teams don't draft a 5th round receiver to be their starting slot receiver. They usually draft them as maybe they're a jack of all trades. They can play special teams. They're a kick returner. So sometimes it actually takes the day 3 guys an extra year to even get a shot or get a look at one of the starting receiver jobs, even if that's the wide receiver 3 on a team. But here's the question. I went back, I took 2 leagues. I just picked 2 random leagues that are fairly active, where I know there's not a taxi and I know it's not like 45-man rosters, right? So I think these were like, one was 28 and one was 30. And I looked last year at how many waiver claims I made in those 2 leagues, okay? And in the 2 leagues, I made 67 waiver claims during the season. So that's about, and this is just from like preseason until the end of week 17. So this doesn't count like off-season waivers or cuts or anything like that. 67 waiver claims in 2 years, or in two different leagues in last year. How many of those do you think were running backs of the 67 claims?
43.
Not quite. It was like 32, and that was including like first come, first serve. And this is just 2 leagues. So I know there's been others where I've been more active. But I look at it and I go, that is 32 running back adds and drops divided by 2. That's 16 running back adds and drops. And I mean, some of the guys I picked up adds and drops. I mean, this is like Josh Adams type territory. You know what I mean? Like, hey, oh my gosh, that guy saw 2 touches. The guy ahead of the backup ahead of him got hurt. So let's pick him up for the week or 2 weeks. But that's like 16 transactions in a league that I can rotate with that roster spot, which means I don't want to carry 5 Khalil Shakirs. You know what I mean? Like, because it's a guarantee that at least 4 of them are going to end up being roster cloggers. And the next year I'm going to go like, Shane, do you want Khalil Shakir for a 4th? And you're like, no, man, I'm good. Okay, well, there's only 4 rounds in the draft. So what's he worth then? Like, what is Paris Campbell worth, Shane?
I will give you $3 in fab.
Okay, what is Darius Slayton worth, Shane?
Is he on a roster?
My point is, if you go through your rosters and you see guys like Darius Slayton or Paris Campbell, you're like, what do I do with him? Because I don't want to cut him because I still have some name attachment from the last 3 years. Yet I offer him to the entire league. Hey, Shane, will you give me the 412? No, I'm good. Shane, will you give me 50 fab? No, I'm good. So really, he's not even worth anything. So why can't I just immediately cut that player? That's a rhetorical question, but it's an answer because I know you have players on some of your rosters, and I go, Shane, can you get anything for this guy? No. Why do you have him? Isn't it worth more having an open roster spot? Answer.
Technically it is, yeah. But I'll say that I'm too lazy to go through some of my leagues at the bottom of the roster and get rid of the Khalif Raymonds. Like I need to get rid of, you know what I mean? Like I should just go in right now, and Khalif Raymond should not be on any roster. But I'll say this: this is why I like rookie drafts and people complain when the commissioners don't expand the rosters. I kind of like it because it forces me to get rid of the trash. It's like, oh, I still have Darius Geis on this roster. Not that I do, but you know what I mean? Just a name. Khalif Raymond's on this roster. KJ Osborne, like, oh, I should probably go ahead and just get rid of this now and just recycle it with all these other guys that I'm probably going to end up cutting next year at this time.
Well, like KJ Osborne is a perfect one because I actually think KJ Osborne's pretty good. But you can also argue if he doesn't do anything right away this year, then he's a roster clogger. So he's really right on the fringe where I probably want to keep him, but I don't want to have 6 KJ Osborne types on a league where I only have 28-man rosters. I can't afford that. I can't. I have to get rid of a couple of them because I know there's going to be this running back that's going to make the team that I want to pick up. This backup quarterback that, man, he's an injury away. Like during the season, you like to pick up backup quarterbacks because they could start. You don't want to have to pay a third every time your guy gets hurt. So like there's some roster construction flips that you want to make during the year or right before the year. And I just have gone through like the DD4 draft that we're doing right now. I mean, the roster is expanded to 40 and there's a 12-man taxi. So like everyone right now can carry 52 players, which means like you don't have to make any cuts. And then all of a sudden that's going to cut down to, I believe it cuts down to like 28. And so like all of a sudden when you get to August, people are going to have to be cutting, and they have to be taxi eligible players, which is just rookies. So not everybody's going to have 12 rookies either. You know what I mean? So right now, like everyone's going to have to cut like 12 to 15 players. And so I'm with you. Like I kind of wish it wasn't as expanded as much because then I'd be like, wow, why am I really holding 14 tight ends and 10 of them are like practice squad tight ends?
Yeah.
But I can cut. I can keep them, so I don't cut them yet. But yeah, I'm with you. Like I kind of wish I could go through some of my teams and be like, really? I still have Emmanuel Sanders on a team. Like that guy's halfway in the friggin' grave. You know what I mean? Like I should just get rid of him because I know he's a roster clogger.
Get him off the roster. Get him off the roster. Although, look, here's the thing, right? As long as you're making moves every week, it's really not that detrimental to you. You know what I mean? You can have the open roster spot sitting out there. It's when you don't realize what a lot of times is if you keep, like you were saying, Khalil Shakir, you keep 6 versions of him, and you don't know which one to get rid of in this season. That's when it starts to get you because you're like, no matter what bet I make, I'm probably going to be wrong, even though all the bets are probably wrong, to be quite honest with you, with any of these late round picks. But this is why we talk about you don't really want to be making 3rd and 4th round picks. You don't really want to be making back of the 2nd round picks, to be quite honest with you. You want to use them as trade capital. I'd honestly trade every 4th, 3rd round pick I could for just a future 3rd and 4th round, and then just use it in season, like we like to do for running backs and you used to be able to get quarterbacks like Brett Rippon, but I think we're not going to do that to ourselves anymore. But you can, you'll get a running back for a week, whatever. I'll get a Bo Scarborough for 2 weeks for a 3rd round draft pick. I'd much rather do that than go pick. I don't even know, Velus Jones in the back of the 3rd when there's a pretty good chance that dude might be an excellent special teamer. Maybe he'll make the all pro as a special teamer, but I can almost guarantee you he will do nothing as a receiver in the league.
Yeah, I think that's you hit the nail on the head. You want to be strategic with how you approach picks. And if you have to make 3rd and 4th round picks, at least if you pick a running back that was a 6th round pick, I'm pretty sure you're going to get a fairly quick turnaround on what that player is, which means it's a free roster spot. So there's value added by picking the right position versus picking a receiver. I mean, and I see it. I've seen a couple of drafts where people are just collecting the Velus Jones and Calvin Austin, and I'm just like, I get taking one of those guys, right? Maybe 2 of those guys max per team. But like, there's people collecting 4 or 5 of those guys. And it's like it's gonna actually hinder you. A, you probably should have traded away some of those picks, like Shane said. But B, like you don't want to leave a rookie draft having to cut players to make draft picks. It means you've been inefficient, which means you have no room to pick up anybody on waivers. You have no flexibility from now between the end of the preseason to where you actually have to finalize your roster. But then I see people using a bunch of picks on receivers or rookie tight ends. Yeah, we're in a lot of like 2 PPR or 2 tight end leagues, but you know what? I don't want to draft. There's like 8 tight ends in this class. I don't want 6 of them on one team because I know I'm getting stuck with extra roster spots holding those guys.
Oh yeah. Well, we're in a league where it's 2 tight ends, and I don't even know what the scoring premium is for him. It's high, but I have trash cans at the tight end position, so I had to just draft 2 rookies, and I already know that in 2 years I'm going to be like, which one of these guys am I cutting?
They will never mature on Shane's team because he will get too upset that they're terrible before then, right?
Yeah, as you should, because they're tight ends. So, you should expect a 3-year gestation period. So by year 2, I'll be ready to move on. So, yeah, I got Greg Dulcich and Brian, whoever the New York Giants kid is, because I've told myself a story of how they're both going to hit. And when they don't in 2 years' time, they're both going to get cut. And then I'll just repeat the same mistake. I will say this. If you don't, I know a lot of us have rookie drafts going on right now, but if you have rookie drafts that are later, you should be sending out the offers now to get rid of your roster cloggers. You shouldn't be waiting until you're on the clock because everyone sees that. When you just, if you're sending me an offer for me to get JD McKissick from you while you're on the clock, I'm not going to accept that. You're going to be cutting him. I'll just go bid $5 fab on him or whoever the player might be.
Yeah, and I've gotten quite a few offers on the clock of like, hey, here's a veteran for this draft pick. And even though I'm like, you know what, that's not a horrible offer, it's at the same time like that's not the kind of offer to send me when I'm on the clock. You know what I mean?
Right.
Regardless of who you're gonna pick, it's almost like you're not gonna cave on somebody that's sending you that offer when you're on the clock. Like, couldn't they have sent you that a month ago or a week ago? So I think that's a good strategy for next year is send out. This is why we do the spam blocks and just, hey, get rid of this player for any player or for any pick like a month before the draft or 2 months before the draft, like not the night of the draft, like, because then that's not the time where people are actually wanting to trade away picks. Now this year picks haven't been more valuable necessarily on the clock. Like I've tried the other way, like, hey, who wants my picks? Nobody wants the picks either, but nobody's trading away veterans for the picks either. They're just kind of like, if you have the pick and it's 314, you're just gonna have to pick. And
Well, let me ask you this: in your rookie drafts, we're not all in the same exactly, although I think we have 6 rookie drafts going on the same together that we're in, something like that. Have you traded any 24 picks for 2022 picks early?
no. I think I've traded a couple 23 picks, not firsts, like seconds or thirds to get specific spots in the draft. But even then, like, that's a few and far between plays. So I'm have to see the exact board, you know what I mean, when I'm making that move. So it's not like I'm trying to get more picks in this draft. But I'm also with you where there's been leagues where I have an early 3rd round pick and I'm like, you know what? I have a couple other 3rd round picks, like our DCHQ league. Like we had 6 3rd round picks. And so like I tried to trade the last 4 for future thirds, but people are like, no, I'm good. And I don't want the last 3 picks of the draft. But they're like, oh, I'll give you a future third for that 304 that you have. I'm like, I don't really want to trade the 304, but okay, if that's the one you're going to take, I'll just gamble that I'm going to get like a similar tier player later on. But you have to do that because I'm with you. Like so here, I guess here's the other thing. Let's say I've made a bunch of 3rd and 4th round picks. Okay. You've made a lot of these picks because you couldn't trade them on the clock. What's your plan? Because we have a dead period coming up from like June to August. I mean, will you start posting more like kind of like, let's say you have 3 running backs that you picked that were 3rd and 4th round picks. If one of them gets some positive buzz, is that a guy you'll just flip for like 2/3 next year just to free up the roster spot and kind of get those assets back and just kind of ride the 2 that maybe don't have any positive buzz yet? You're muted again. This is Shane's first live stream.
More than likely, yeah. Because look, they're low end. They're not. We're betting. We're not. These are low end bets, right? So you're better off just flipping them for more things you can bet with. Get 2 more nickels for him because they're only worth 8 cents anyway. If I tried to turn in this dime, I don't know how that math works out, but it works out. Trust me. And we know it's not like, look, none of these running backs drafted in the 6th round are going to turn into starting running backs. Like Chris Carson's rare. James Robinson's are rare. Like I know people like attached to them and they're going to remember that, like, oh, I remember when I got James Robinson. So all my late round running backs are going to hit. They're not. At most you should be hoping they get you a start or 2, but there's going to be people that like, their imagination runs wild where they're going to tell me how Tyler Algier is going to be a perennial a Pro Bowler or something like that.
Yeah, and I think you just have to kind of move the goalposts when you draft some of these backup running backs. Like, what is your expectation? I didn't load up on, Ty Chandler and Jerome Ford shares because I think they're going to take over the backfield. I picked them because I think at their price, they basically are 4th round picks. They are a cheap way to backfill your team with a guy that could get a couple spot starts. It's cheaper than paying a 3rd round pick in season because you only have so many of those you can go around. Like I know we've talked about this many times. Like, I'm fine paying the 3rd for like Mark Ingram if he's going to get a start on a Thursday night game during the year. Like that's the price. But at the same time, you only have so many of those darts you can fire during the season. You don't have, I'm guessing most of your teams don't have 7 3rd round picks laying around. You might have an extra 1 or 2 extra ones. But I think that's part of the idea now is between now and the season, if you can liquidate Because again, it's not only liquidating to get picks to use during the season, but it's also, you're going to have to cut down a lot of rosters too. So it's freeing up a roster spot. So you're actually getting two benefits by making the trade. But sometimes you have to get a little uncomfortable. So here's one. Two guys that have been rising in rookie drafts that were basically free at the beginning, but now they're handily going in like the mid third and early fourth, and they really weren't going here at all. Have you noticed people are taking Keontae Ingram a lot higher now? Like he's going like way higher than guys that were drafted higher than him. Like guys that were drafted in the fourth and fifth, he's going higher than them in rookie drafts. And I think that's narrative of people saying, well, he's got the best path to playing time, right?
We know what's hilarious about that is he's on this exact same roster as another player people were in love with. It was a super late round draft pick, Benjamin, and we saw how that turned out. Like it's probably going to be a similar story. I understand that Keontae Ingram's behind a injury prone James Conner. It still doesn't make him better. He's still gonna, you know what I mean? Like it's not like the team is going to turn over the reins to him. He's going to come out there. He'll give you a 20 for 80 yards, and people will love it. Which is just basically a league average type of play. And then the Cardinals will go, okay, James is back. Now you can go back to the bench, Keontae. But yeah, I've seen him a little higher than I expected.
So right now he's going like mid third, but a lot of times people drafted him and got him early fourth, mid fourth. So would he be the kind of player right now that you said, okay, I took Keontae Ingram, but I also took a couple other running backs. Let's say I also picked Jerome Ford, Tyler Beatty, whatever. I have 3 or 4 of them. Would he be the guy right now that you would sell for a third and a fourth, a future third and a fourth right now, just to kind of cash in one of those spots? Because right now, no one's going to give you a third for Tyler Beatty. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like you're going to have to wait for something to trigger for someone to give you a pick for him. But I think if you re-rolled, even if you picked Keontae Ingram the day after the NFL draft, you could probably get a third for him right now. If you spammed, you could get a future third. Is that the kind of move you'd make? Like there's been enough buzz where people actually want him now. And the other one is Isaiah Pacheco on the Chiefs. He's gotten some buzz where he's getting drafted in every league now, higher than guys that got me. He was a 7th round pick, but he's going ahead of guys that went in the 5th and 6th. I think you could get a third potentially for him.
Yeah, if I can get a third for Pacheco, he's gone. For Ingram, I'll probably hold for a third because I think he's going to be one of those guys that I sell, that I try to acquire for a third. You know what I mean?
So what about a 23 and a 24 third? You get 2.
Nah, maybe. Well, probably, maybe. It's a strong maybe. I mean, because that's probably going to be the kind of guy that I'm going to buy in season, right? Like if I don't expect him to be anything more than he's going to get me a 1 start or 2. Whereas Pacheco, I don't think that dude will ever get a start in his life. He's really fast.
But wouldn't you rather have 2 thirds now and be able to just buy Keontae Ingram in the season for 1?
Maybe, except I don't know if I'll be able to buy him, and instead I'll end up buying like Rex Burkhead on the the 14 weeks that he's no good, instead of the 2 weeks that he is.
See, but this is exactly what I'm talking about. That's your bias. You like Keontae Ingram over some of these other guys. You don't see them as equal. Like right now, if I said I will give you would take a third for Ty Chandler, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
What's the difference?
Literally, there's none. There's my player bias.
Ty Chandler was actually drafted higher than Keontae Ingram.
Well, I mean, okay, so if I wanted to get into narrative street, which I will, Ty Chandler has to get through Alexander Madison. And
what if he's better than Madison?
He's not. He has to get through Alexander Madison and Dalvin Cook, whereas Keontae Ingram literally just has to get past James Conner, who's going to get hurt. I love James Conner with all my heart, but he's going to miss 4 games next year. You can bag it.
So this is exactly why I brought this topic up, because there is
everyone in your league does this. So you're better off, yes, going, you know what, these dudes don't have names. This is their profile. I need to just flip them for a couple extra thirds.
Well, the key is you don't want to flip them for 1 third.
Right.
You want to try to get 2 thirds. You want to try to get 2 shots plus a roster spot. So essentially you're getting, if I can get 3 assets, because I value the roster spot as an asset, plus 2 thirds, there will be strategic spots where I would just go through and take that regardless, because right now we don't know anything. We don't know anything more today than we did a week ago when you drafted the guy. The only thing you know is what Twitter is telling you and what all your friends are telling you about how great his situation could be. And, how everyone likes Keontae Ingram's profile, and look at the backfield. It's just, let's see.
The
3
smart part
feet
is,
under James Conner and Eno Benjamin. How is he not the starter by week 6, Shane?
he might be with the starter by week 1 if we're being honest. But yeah, no, the point's well taken. You should really be trading all of these guys for just for additional picks. Anyone that you're drafting in the 3rd or 4th round, because the hit rate on that is so low. No matter how you, no matter what you consider the hit rate, even if it's just a few usable weeks.
So, real quick before we finish, what is your thoughts on the wide receivers? Do you treat them a little bit differently? And I'm not talking about the roster clogger receivers. I'm talking about the John Mechie's, the David Bells, the Wan'Dale Robinsons, the Alec Pierces, Jalen Tolberts. Like, those guys are 2nd and 3rd round picks. The hit rate on them is a little bit higher. I think when you draft one of those guys, you're not giving up on them within 1 year. You're going to want to hold a little bit longer. But like if someone came to you right now and said, I'll give you or would you give like a 2024 second for David Bell?
No. So stop trying to trade me him.
Well, no, I mean, you're not the only one I've sent that to, because I think that's one of those deals where it's like he probably got drafted in like the mid to late 2nd in a lot of leagues. But when it comes to actually paying a future pick, the person that didn't get him in that spot in the draft is hesitant to give the future pick, which is interesting. But I think if I would have sent say I drafted him at the 210 and I would have sent that for a 24 second on the clock, I bet someone would have taken it. But it's interesting they won't take David Bell now, even though they might have been after David Bell back then. So was it I just didn't pick the guy they wanted, or is it kind of like, I mean, what's your thoughts? Because I know you like Bell. I'm using that as an example because I know you like him. But you're clearly hesitant, and you know that's a fair price, a 24 second. But at the same time, it's kind of like you don't want to use that right now on one player, right?
No, 24 second is really not expensive. Like that's nothing. I can get that back. Not all of you watching this can get that back. So don't everyone think that. I can, because I'm very adept at trading and I do a lot of it. Not everyone can do it. So stop saying you can just get those picks back, because it's not true. And ask anyone that's trying to draft next year in 2023 when they're like, oh, I'll just get these picks back. Anywho, I mean, honestly, I feel like David Bell would have probably fell to the 3rd round in a stronger rookie class. That's part of it. I love David Bell's production, and this might be just too player centric, but the fact that he runs like me scares me to death. So there's no real, I don't want to say upside, because I hate that word, but I don't see the ceiling for him. No.
Well, Andrew Berry said he's their starting slot, and they could see him playing Jarvis Landry's role in it. So like people have kind of attached to that, like, well, I don't care how quick he is. I don't care how shifty he is. If he's going to be a slot receiver, then athleticism really doesn't matter. Man, if he's a starter, like that could be a guy that.
So there's 32 NFL teams, right?
Yep.
All of them at least nominally start a slot starter, right?
Yep.
I'm not the best with math, so that's roughly around 96 wide receivers.
Well, I mean, depending on the formation, yeah. But generally, there's a slot role or even 2 slot roles.
So generally, there's at least one starter, at least one slot starter. One guy that's designated for it. There's 96 of those dudes in the league. How many of those guys are useful? Just because David Bell is going to be in the slot and his situation may seem advantageous, I'm going to bet against it.
So if you got David Bell in the early 3rd, you sell for a second, 24 second today?
Yes, right now. Yeah.
And I think you can get some traction, especially with those types of players. Those receivers I mentioned, all 5. Wan'Dale, David Bell, Alec Pierce, John Mechie, Jalen Tolbert. Those guys were kind of in like a tier of their own, but I'm pretty sure you can probably get 24 seconds for those guys. And so now Shane is saying sell them. And you know what, Shane? I was Mr. Don't draft receivers that were not 1st round picks or not top 50 picks. I swore myself off taking Wan'Dale Robinson because, of course, he's 5'8", not 5'9". But then I look up and let's see, I have 6 Wan'Dale Robinsons. So again, I'm kind of convincing myself that maybe I'm wrong here. And then I have 4 David Bells and 3 Jalen Tolberts, 3 John Mechie's. So I didn't take my own advice. So I think that might be the kind of deal that I would.
Jalen Tolbert's been my guy this year, where I keep doing that.
He's Michael Gallup, dude. Compare them side by side.
But I'll say I am proud of myself. Wan'Dale, I only have a couple, and David Bell, I don't think I've actually purposely drafted anywhere. If I did, it was probably because I tied down. He was in my queue.
Anyway, I think the idea is like the whole point of this show was to kind of talk about how we still don't know anything compared to what we knew a week ago when you drafted some of these guys. So instead of trying to trade away your crap, which nobody really wants that you took in the 3rd or 4th round, use this time to wait, follow the narrative. I mean, what happens in the next 2 months, Shane? It's all, is there even real news, or is it just like, dipstick analysts go, well, this guy could be great. All he needs to do is beat out these 2 dudes and he's the starter. Like all of a sudden his value's worth like 25% more because of that. Articles and the podcasts.
Yeah, we're going to, and I guess we did it exactly like we did with Malik Willis, right? Where we spin this narrative, it becomes mainstream because we believe it and we created it, and then we repeat it, and then it's the thing. And it's not just Malik Willis this year. I mean, it's every year. We're all going to, and that's what you're going to see all through the summer. Every day on Twitter, we're going to have a different player that everyone is hyping up for reasons. Nothing's changed. Literally nothing has changed, but we're just going to start hyping them up.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think it's use those to your advantage over the next couple months, free up some roster spots, collect some picks. You're going to want to have those picks, I think, during next year, because last question for you, Shane. I think what we're going to see next year, I've been brainstorming this. We're going to see 1 of 2 things when it comes to the trade market during this upcoming season. It's going to be home run deals where people are shooting for 23 firsts. And if you have an extra 23 first and you're willing to trade it, I think you can buy yourself legit points during the year. Like you're gonna be able to name your veteran running back plus that you get for a 23 first. Whoever's survived the gauntlet of the NFL infirmary and injury season, you're gonna be able to get. You're gonna be able to buy your Derrick Henrys, Joe Mixons, like people will sell those guys for 23 firsts. Maybe they'll even throw something in to get out from under those risky running backs. So you're gonna either see big deals like that, where it's like, wow, Shane, you're gonna give up. I can just picture this. You have a good team. You're in week 8. You have 2 23 firsts. You put them on the block. How many points can I get to try to smash this league into a championship? Yeah. Like there's either going to be that, or it's going to be, I got a bunch of extra picks. Let me just fill in spot starters. Like I'm either making mini deals every week or I'm making massive deals. I don't think there's going to be a lot of in between, because I think a lot of people are going to hold their 23 seconds because they just don't want to give those up for, fillers.
Well, yeah, and also people think the 23 seconds are basically 22 firsts.
I mean, I think there's an argument to be made that the top like 4 or 6 of them are going to be good. But if you're stuck on the 212, I don't think that's any better than this year. So it's a gamble. But I think the point is people are not going to throw around 23 seconds for like Devontae Parker type players. You know what I mean? It's either going to be I'm going the cheapest possible. What can I get for a 3rd or a 4th? Or I'm putting my first on the table. And when I put my first on the table, I expect like a stud plus coming my way. Probably have to be an older guy, but I'm not accepting, you're not going to see 23 firsts traded for like 2 fringe starters. You know what I mean? You're not going to get like a Devin Singletary in a second for a 23 first type deal. It's going to be, if I'm putting my 23 first on the table, which teams suck and which teams are trading me Devontae Adams and Mike Evans and Nick Chubb. Like I want studs I want 2 guys I can put in my starting lineup now that puts me from the 4th best team to the favorite. Like that's what it's going to take. So that's going to be the trade market, I think, this upcoming year. So you don't want to be the team that, if you don't have any 23 firsts, you want to have a lot of the extra small pieces. You know what I mean? You do not want to be the team this upcoming year that has already gutted all their picks. And you're operating on the very thin, the razor's edge. Because if you have some things go wrong, your team goes south very quick.
This is correct.
All right, we'll do more shows like this. Maybe weekly, maybe bi-weekly. But shout out to DLF for the platform. Clay, want to give Clay one more plug?
Thanks, Clay. Appreciate the night off. Check us out on Dynasty Trades in 5 sometime, folks.
So Trades in 5 on Twitter. And then what else? Facebook? TikTok, Instagram.
Don't forget us on the TikTok. We're on the TikToks.
Do you do TikTok, Shane?
I do the backpack dance on there. Yeah. That's all I do. I just every day I go on and I just upload me doing the backpack dance.
At least you're active.
Yeah.
Our family's active. My wife's active on TikTok. She used to subscribe to Dynasty Trades in 5, but I've never had an account. So maybe I should create one to get us another follower.
You should.
But yeah, we'll do another show. Maybe we'll do one this weekend more often now that we need to keep up with the Joneses at DLF. So appreciate it. At Shane is the worst. At Charles Chill FFB. At DL Football on YouTube, on Twitter. Click the links. I assume this may go out on the DLF channel at some point, as long as we tell Addison, hey, we actually recorded a show. And yeah, maybe he can put it up. So appreciate everybody. Be chill.